So the idea today is to test out 3 wide-angle lens setups on the Sony 6300. First one is the Canon L series 16-35mm 2.8. This, in my opinion, is one of the best wide-angle lenses around. The Meike 12mm, and that's also a 2.8. This is a great little cheap lens. This old Vivitar 28mm, this is a 2.5 using a speed booster by Pixco, so that I can use this as an FD lens for old Canon cameras that can be adapted and used in the 6300. The Meike and the Vivitar are completely manual. The Canon can, through the metabones, can use all of its functionality and autofocus. These happen to be the 3 wide-angle lenses I have. I'm not comparing exactly the same wide-angle setup to each other. Please excuse my compositions. I'm not spending time looking for a nice composition. I'm just looking for things that are in the foreground, some nice backgrounds, and then being able to compare how wide the image is of each lens and see what I like best, as well as quality of one versus the other. We all know that the Canon is going to be the best possible quality, but is it wide enough and is the quality that much better that it's worth taking a big bulky lens versus the tiny 12mm Meike? So the outcome of the test. So that day when I got home, I recorded an entire ending and a synopsis of my findings for the day. And after I finished recording, it wasn't sitting well. I was not really happy with the outcome. So after some research that night, I actually came up with a better solution than where I netted out after my tests of the lenses. So looking at the photos side by side, as expected, the quality of the Canon 16-35L series completely annihilates the 12mm Meike lens. That's completely to be expected. We're talking about a $1,500 lens versus a $200 lens. But that's not what I was comparing, because that's comparing apples to oranges. What I was really trying to find out in my test was, is the quality of the nicer lens so much better that it's worth it to take the risk in using it, in how bulky it is and how heavy it is, and having to carry this around all the time versus a super light, super small 12mm that fits perfectly in a backpack. I'm sure that the video I'm going to post is going to get compressed by YouTube, and so you're not going to be able to see really the quality of the photos one versus the other. Now, the main reason I was upset with the results of my test was that if I take, for example, the 50mm lens that I'm using to record right now, it's meant for a full frame camera, and I put it in a crop sensor DSLR, it's not going to use the entire glass. It's actually going to use less of it because the sensor is smaller. I believe it should be by a factor of 1.6, so the 50mm would turn into an 80mm lens, so it adds a bit of zoom, I guess that would be the way to describe it. So the same thing was happening to the 16mm. When I put it on the crop sensor of the 6300, I was actually getting more of a 25mm frame. I really thought, I wish I could get that wider angle, because what I really love about the 12mm is the fact that it's just ultra wide, because sometimes you're sitting in your kayak and you want to get as much as you can of the scene into your photo. And I love GoPros, but sometimes it's just a little too wide. There's too much warping. And after some research at night, I found that there is a speed booster for $100 that allows you to mount EF full frame lenses onto crop sensors E-mount cameras. And this is the Viltrex EF to E-mount speed booster, and it allows me to get this lens to its full 16mm onto a crop sensor of the 6300. I haven't tested it completely just yet. I've only tested it a little bit, but it was in low light, so I didn't get to see if there's any vignetting or if there's any warping at the ends. I'm gonna do some thorough testing in another video, but just to know that I can get close to that 16mm having this superb lens, and it allows you to actually use all of the electronic parts of the lens, so autofocus and any of the commands that I give, I don't have to do it manually. So I think it's going to do exactly what I want. I'll post a link to it below. So to wrap up, the 28mm did well, although with the speed booster, the sides of the images were just a little bit too soft to my taste. However, I think it's going to be perfect in getting a really warm feel whenever I'm filming. The 12mm Meike has limitations, however it's very cheap and it's very easy to use, it's light and very portable. And as expected, the Canon 16-35 is an absolutely beast of a lens. And moving forward, I will just deal with the bulkiness and weight of this lens because the quality is just that good. So after that entire rant, I still do believe that the best camera is the one you have with you. If you don't have access to a lens like this, it doesn't matter. Shoot with anything you have. I have access to this because of work. Other than that, if I didn't have it, I would be using the Vivitar the entire time because it's a fantastic lens. You can find any of these old EF lenses on eBay for super cheap and they're fantastic. They're just manual, but if you know what you're doing with them, you can get such wonderful photos from these old lenses. And then the speed booster, I think for this one was 80 bucks, so that's affordable as well. And with the speed booster, if you happen to have old EF lenses, all of a sudden you have tons of different lenses you can use on any of these cameras. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Tim Galloway for this awesome carving of my logo. I'm so excited to hang this up. I'm going to be redoing the basement. He's going to be opening a store soon, so if you need any carving of any kind, drop him a line on Instagram and Twitter. His handle is Kayak to the Sea. He's also a fantastic kayak mentor. I know this video didn't have any kayaking, however, I do like testing settings and lenses and equipment whenever I'm not on the water, so I can spend time playing with settings and seeing what I like best. So when I'm out on the water, I'm not thinking about these things. I just can take the camera out, it's already in the right settings, and all I can do is enjoy myself and shoot. So I hope that was helpful for those of you that like photography. Subscribe if you'd like. I'm always trying to put these videos out, and as always, Luke Grover, Kayak Hipster. Thank you for watching. See you next time.